What happens when ancient wisdom that has existed for 7,000 years meets the latest discoveries of modern science? Creation stories and evolution theory have seemingly stood in opposition to each other for centuries. But what if this entire debate is based on a misunderstanding? What if both sides are talking about the same infinitely complex process, just using completely different languages? In today's video, we'll uncover what both mainstream science and traditional religions have been keeping quiet about. Prepare yourself for everything you thought you knew about this topic to change completely. The hidden message of ancient wisdom. Let's start with what's truly essential. Ancient creation stories were never literal accounts of what happened 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. This is the biggest mistake made by both religious fundamentalists and skeptical scientists. These sacred texts actually encode deeper truths about consciousness and the nature of reality. Take the book of Genesis, for example. When we read that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, this isn't about a calendar time frame. The Hebrew word yom, used in ancient texts, can mean day, era, or even an infinite time period. But more importantly, these days of creation actually describe different layers of consciousness and stages of reality's unfolding. The first day is the separation of light and darkness. This isn't about physical light, but about the first manifestation of consciousness, when pure potential divides into the known and unknown. On the second day, heaven and earth separate. This is the birth of polarity, the creation of dual reality. On the third day appears dry land and vegetation. This is life's first manifestation, the birth of biological forms. On the fourth day, the sun, moon, and stars are created. This isn't about when these physical objects came into being, but about consciousness beginning to perceive time and space. On the fifth day come water and air creatures. On the sixth, land animals, and finally humans. This is an exact description of evolution, just expressed in spiritual language. And so on. Each day symbolizes another level of consciousness. The seventh day, the day of rest, is the level when consciousness recognizes itself in creation, when the divine and created become one. This corresponds exactly to yoga and Buddhism's highest state of consciousness, samadhi. Hinduism is even more explicit about this. According to the Vedas, the universe cyclically comes into being and dissolves in massive cosmic cycles called kalpas. One kalpa equals 4,320,000,000 Earth years. These numbers don't resemble modern cosmology's estimates of the universe's age by coincidence. But even more fascinating is the Yuga system, which describes smaller cycles. Satya Yuga is the golden age, when humanity lives in complete harmony with nature and divine laws. Treta Yuga is the silver age, when duality appears, but spiritual consciousness is still high. Dvapara Yuga is the Bronze Age, when materialistic thinking begins to predominate. And finally, Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, when darkness and illusion rule. We are now at the end of Kali Yuga and about to enter a new Satya Yuga. This means humanity is facing a massive leap in consciousness, and this coincides exactly with what modern science is discovering about consciousness and the nature of reality. The spiritual dimension of science. Now let's turn to the other side. Darwin's theory of evolution was revolutionary, but many forget that Darwin himself was a deeply religious man. In the final paragraph of The Origin of Species, he writes, "There is grandeur in this view of life, having been originally breathed by the Creator into a few forms or into one." Darwin never saw evolution and spiritual reality as contradictory. Darwin's later writings make this attitude even clearer. He writes that the mind is a consequence from the effects in the outer world, just like the divinity. The mind's highest development leads to faith. This doesn't come from a dying man's religious carelessness, but from the result of lifelong scientific research. Modern quantum physics goes even further. Niels Bohr, the father of quantum theory, said, "Anyone who is not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it." Max Planck, who laid the foundations of quantum physics, openly declared, "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of consciousness. We cannot get behind matter. Everything we talk about, everything we regard as existing, postulates consciousness." Werner Heisenberg, who formulated the uncertainty principle, stated, "The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you." Erwin Schrödinger, whose name is intertwined with quantum mechanics, deeply studied Vedanta and believed Eastern philosophy could provide a key to understanding quantum paradoxes. This is no coincidence. Quantum physics' fundamental discovery is that the observer affects the observed reality. This proves exactly what ancient wisdom traditions have taught for millennia. Consciousness and matter cannot be separated from each other. What the Upanishads formulate as tat tvam asi, thou art that, quantum physics describes as the observer effect, the DNA mystery and designer intelligence. Here comes a truly thought-provoking fact. DNA's information content is so complex that for it to develop through random mutations would require more time than the universe's age. Astrophysicist Fred Hoyle put it this way: "The probability that DNA developed by chance is like a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a Boeing 747. Francis Crick, who discovered DNA's structure, recognizing this problem, suggested that life might be extraterrestrial in origin. The panspermia theory states that life's basic building blocks arrived on Earth via meteorites or comets. But this only pushes the problem further. Where did these complex molecules come from? Crick later proposed an even more radical concept: the theory of directed panspermia. According to him, an advanced alien civilization deliberately sent life's seeds to various planets. This is no longer just scientific speculation, but almost a theological position. Someone or something consciously designed and initiated life. But what if it's not extraterrestrial, but extra-dimensional? What if DNA actually draws its data from an information field that Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphogenetic field? This field is not physical, but informational in nature, influencing every living being's form and behavior. Sheldrake's experiments show that when members of a species learn something, members of the same species elsewhere in the world more easily acquire the same knowledge. He calls this morphic resonance. It's as if there exists a collective memory accessible to all living beings. This is perfectly compatible with reincarnation doctrine. If consciousness truly survives physical death, then it's logical that it carries information with it. DNA is thus not merely the result of random mutations, but an imprint from an intelligent information field that passes on and develops from generation to generation, from life to life. The timeless perspective. Now we arrive at the most fascinating part. According to ancient texts, time is not linear. In Hindu cosmology, one day of Brahma equals 4,320,000,000 years, and when Brahma sleeps, the entire universe dissolves to be reborn the next day. This isn't metaphor. This is a description of multidimensional reality. Einstein's theory of relativity proved that time is indeed relative. But quantum physics goes even further. It suggests that all possible past, present, and future exist simultaneously. Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation states that every quantum event creates a branch in reality. Physicist Julian Barber takes an even more radical position in The End of Time. According to him, time doesn't exist at all. It's just an illusion created by our consciousness. Every moment exists eternally, and what we perceive as time's passage is actually consciousness wandering between these eternal moments. This means evolution and creation happen simultaneously. The universe is recreated every moment, and it evolves every moment too. These aren't mutually exclusive processes, but two aspects of the same divine dance. If this is true, then the past isn't fixed, the future isn't predetermined, and the present is the only place where real change can happen. This radically changes our understanding of responsibility. Every choice we make, every thought we think, shapes both past and future. The secret of morphic resonance. Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance theory represented a breakthrough in science, even if the mainstream didn't accept it. According to him, every system inherits a collective memory from earlier similar systems. This would explain why new generations learn faster, or why similar inventions appear in independent locations at the same time. Sheldrake's experiments are fascinating. He observed that when lab rats learn a maze in London, similar rats in New York and Tokyo also learn the same maze faster. It's as if there exists a collective rat memory accessible to all rats. His experiments with humans are even more exciting. When a crossword puzzle was published in the Times that evening, after millions had solved it, those who hadn't yet seen the solution could solve it much more easily. The collective knowledge somehow seeped through to them. This morphic field corresponds exactly to what Eastern philosophies call the Akashic records. This is a cosmic information field containing every experience, all knowledge, and every memory that has ever existed. Edgar Cayce, the famous American psychic, read these Akashic records for decades and could obtain information about people's past lives with incredible accuracy. When we reincarnate, we draw from this field those abilities and inclinations we're born with. This would explain child prodigies who possess knowledge from early childhood that they couldn't have learned in their current life. It's time to pause for a moment. If this new perspective excites you and you'd like to continue this journey of discovery, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. I bring similar, deep content weekly that helps unfold reality's hidden layers. The age of conscious evolution. Now we arrive at the most exciting part. Humanity is currently entering an era we can call conscious evolution. Until now, evolution has been mainly an unconscious process, through natural selection's blind mechanism. But today, humans can consciously direct their own evolution for the first time in history. This isn't happening only on a genetic level, though CRISPR technology does indeed make DNA editing possible. It's about a much deeper level. Human consciousness is developing, and as it develops, so does the reality we perceive. Teilhard de Chardin, Jesuit priest and paleontologist, recognized this already in the last century. His noosphere theory states that humanity is developing a collective consciousness that forms a new layer above the biosphere. He calls this process the omega point, the point when all humanity merges into a single consciousness. Quantum physics shows that the observer affects the observed reality. This means that as more and more people awaken to reality's deeper layers, physical reality itself changes too. Not metaphorically, but literally. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, founder of transcendental meditation, called this the Maharishi effect. When 1% of a city's population regularly meditates, the entire city's crime rate decreases, economic indicators improve, and the atmosphere generally becomes more positive. More than 50 scientific studies have confirmed this. The epigenetics revolution. The discovery of epigenetics completely rewrote our understanding of heredity. It turned out that environmental influences, stress, meditation, and even our thoughts can influence which genes activate and which don't. And more importantly, these changes are heritable. Cell biologist Bruce Lipton shows in The Biology of Belief that cells' behavior isn't determined by their genes, but by their environment. Cell membrane receptors receive environmental signals and decide based on these which genes to activate. This means every spiritual practice we do, every meditation, every consciousness-developing activity creates physical changes in our genes, and we can pass these changes to our children. Evolution is thus no longer a purely random process, but conscious co-creation with God. There are concrete examples of this. Holocaust survivors' children and grandchildren often carry the genetic imprint of their parents' trauma. But similarly, people who regularly meditate or engage in spiritual practices pass positive genetic changes to their descendants. This connects karmic inheritance with biological heredity. The consciousness we develop in one life affects not only our next incarnation, but also our children and grandchildren. Every spiritual development we achieve contributes to all humanity's evolution. The holographic universe model. Physicist David Bohm's holographic universe theory states that reality is fundamentally holographic in nature. This means every part contains the whole. Every atom, every cell, nucleus, even every thought contains information from the entire universe. The hologram's functioning draws an exciting parallel with spiritual teachings. When a hologram is made, every point on the plate contains information from the entire image. If we break the plate in half, both halves show the same complete image, just at lower resolution. If we break it into more pieces, each piece still contains the complete image. This perfectly explains reincarnation. If every part contains the whole's information, then consciousness cannot be localized to a single brain or body. Consciousness is present throughout the universe, and different aspects manifest in different beings. Another property of holograms is that when broken, every piece shows the same image, just at lower resolution. This explains why we all carry a divine spark within us, and why we're capable of connecting with complete cosmic consciousness through meditation or other spiritual practices. Neurologist Karl Pribram took this theory even further. According to him, the human brain also functions holographically. Memories aren't stored in one place but scattered throughout the brain in a holographic manner. This would explain why people can restore functions even after severe brain injuries. The science of synchronicity. Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, is gaining more and more scientific explanation. The quantum entanglement phenomenon shows that particles can instantly affect each other regardless of the distance between them. Albert Einstein called this spooky action at a distance because it didn't fit his worldview. But experiments have clearly confirmed that instantaneous information transfer really exists between two entangled particles, regardless of the distance between them. What Jung called synchronicity might actually be the morphic field's functioning. When we're psychologically prepared for something, we tune into the appropriate information field, and this increases the probability that necessary circumstances will appear in our lives. This isn't superstition or self-deception. According to quantum theory, all possible outcomes exist simultaneously until we observe them. The observer's consciousness decides which reality becomes manifest. If this is true, and quantum physics suggests it is, then synchronicities are actually manifestations of conscious creation. Dean Radin, researcher at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, has proven through experiments that people can indeed influence random number generators functioning through pure intention. This suggests that consciousness really does affect physical reality, even at the quantum level. Spirituality encoded in DNA. Recently, more and more research deals with the fact that DNA carries not only biological information, but something much deeper. Russian scientists discovered that 95% of DNA, previously called junk DNA, actually contains complex information structures. Russian biophysicist Pyotr Garjajev and colleagues discovered that this non-coding DNA shows language-like structures. Grammar and syntax rules can be applied to it, as if it were truly a language. Moreover, they found it responds to sound vibrations, light, and even word frequencies. Russian research shows that certain words and mantras can literally reprogram DNA. This scientifically supports what Eastern traditions have taught for millennia about mantra power. Aum, Sohum, or other mantras are indeed capable of changing cell behavior. American biochemist Glenn Rain achieved similar results. He showed that the heart's coherent rhythms can change DNA structure. When people were in love or gratitude, DNA strands unfolded. When angry or stressed, DNA strands contracted. If this is true, then evolution doesn't happen only through natural selection, but also through conscious intention and spiritual practices. Every meditation, every prayer, every positive thought creates physical changes in our cells, and these changes are passed on to the next generation. The epigenetic explanation of reincarnation. Reincarnation has traditionally been considered a spiritual phenomenon, but epigenetics offers a new explanation. If experiences can change gene expression, and these changes are heritable, what happens to information we don't receive from our biological parents? Ian Stevenson, psychiatry professor at the University of Virginia, collected reincarnation cases for 4 decades. He has more than 2,000 documented cases of children who remember past lives with such detail that could later be verified. Stevenson noticed that these children often bear birthmarks or congenital defects corresponding to injuries or deaths suffered in their previous lives. This suggests that something is passed on physically from one life to another. There's a possibility that through morphic fields we inherit epigenetic changes not only from our own ancestors, but also from previous incarnations. This would explain innate talents, inexplicable fears, or why some children are born with skills they couldn't have learned in their current life. Consciousness is thus not a tabula rasa, but a complex information network drawing from multiple lives, multiple experiences. This isn't just spiritual speculation, but a scientifically testable hypothesis. Rediscovering the collective unconscious. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious gains new meaning in light of morphic fields. What Jung called archetypes might actually be those information patterns stored in morphic fields that every human inherits. Archetypes, the mother, father, shadow, anima, and animus, are universal patterns appearing in every culture. According to Jung, we don't acquire these through learning, but bring them with us at birth. This corresponds exactly to morphic resonance functioning. But this goes even deeper. If every living being contributes to this collective information field, then every spiritual development we achieve adds to all humanity's knowledge. This means when we meditate, when we develop spiritually, we're not only helping ourselves, but the entire human race. This is a revolutionary thought. Personal spiritual development is also social responsibility. Every level we reach in consciousness makes it easier for others to reach the same level. This explains the 100th monkey effect and why new thoughts and concepts suddenly spread worldwide. When a certain critical mass reaches a new level of consciousness, this becomes available to the entire species. That's why great spiritual teachings, Buddha's teaching, Jesus' message, great mystics' discoveries, spread so quickly and remain effective today. Discovering quantum consciousness. According to Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff's theory, consciousness is a quantum-level process in the brain. Microtubules create quantum coherence, allowing consciousness to process quantum information. The microtubule system is found in every cell, but is particularly developed in nerve cells. According to Penrose and Hameroff, these structures function as quantum computers capable of non-classical information processing. This would mean consciousness isn't limited to the brain, but is part of the quantum information field permeating the entire universe. At death, this quantum information doesn't disappear, but returns to the quantum field, from where it can later manifest again. This could provide scientific basis for reincarnation. Consciousness isn't bound to the physical brain, but is a quantum information pattern that can manifest in different physical systems. Every new life is a new opportunity for this quantum pattern to unfold and develop. Quantum physicist Henry Stapp goes even further with this theory. According to him, consciousness is the only thing that truly exists, and matter is just one manifestation form of consciousness. This corresponds exactly to Advaita philosophy's teaching that everything is Brahman, pure consciousness. Nature's intelligence. Modern biology finds more and more evidence that nature is much more intelligent than we thought. Plants communicate with each other. Trees help their sick companions. Microorganisms create complex alliances. German forester Peter Wohlleben shows in The Secret Life of Trees that forests actually function as superorganisms. Trees exchange information through root systems and fungal networks, share nutrients, and even warn each other of dangers. Canadian forest researcher Suzanne Simard discovered further that mother trees exist in forests, older trees that play a central role in the communication network. These trees care for young shoots, even if they belong to different species. This intelligence doesn't come from a central nervous system, but from something much more fundamental: life's organizing force itself. Henri Bergson called this élan vital. Rudolf Steiner called it life force. Eastern philosophies call it prana. This life force isn't mechanical, but teleological, goal-oriented. It doesn't just react to the environment, but actively shapes it. This means evolution isn't merely adaptation, but creative self-expression. Every species, every individual is a unique way the universal intelligence expresses itself. This intelligence can be observed even in the simplest organisms. Single-celled amoebas can learn, remember, and make decisions without having brains. Bacteria create complex social structures and communicate with each other through chemical signals. This suggests that intelligence isn't the result of complexity, but a fundamental property of existence. It's present at every level, from atoms to galaxies. Evolution is thus not the random appearance of conscious beings, but consciousness's gradual unfolding through different forms. If this journey of discovery has been exciting so far, please share this video with those who might be interested in this topic. Every share helps this knowledge reach those who need it. The continuous process of creation. According to ancient traditions, creation wasn't a one-time event in the past, but is continuously happening. According to the Vedas, Brahma recreates the universe every moment. In mystical Christianity, Meister Eckhart taught that God recreates the world every moment. Modern physics confirms this. According to quantum theory, reality is reconstructed every moment through interaction with the observer's consciousness. Every quantum event is a new act of creation. Evolution is thus not a mechanical process, but continuous creative art. Physicist John Wheeler's it from bit theory states that every physical entity has an information theoretic origin. Reality is fundamentally information, and what we perceive as matter is just one manifestation form of information. This corresponds exactly to Vedic teaching's basic idea that everything comes from consciousness. Cosmologist Max Tegmark represents an even more radical position in the mathematical universe hypothesis. According to him, physical reality and mathematical structures are identical. What we experience as universe is actually a mathematical object we experience from within. This radically changes our understanding of evolution. It's not about a blind, purposeless process, but conscious, creative development. Every mutation, every adaptation is another step in universal consciousness's self-discovery. If this is true, then every living being, from single-celled organisms to humans, is a participant in this cosmic self-discovery process. We're not random products of purposeless evolution, but conscious participants in the universe's awakening to itself. The future of evolution. Now we arrive at the most exciting question. Where is humanity's evolution heading? Biological evolution is a slow process, but conscious evolution accelerates exponentially. The internet, artificial intelligence, global communication are all part of this process. Futurist Ray Kurzweil says we're approaching the singularity, the point when technological development becomes so fast that human intelligence can no longer follow. But this isn't just technological development, but a leap in consciousness too. The technological singularity might actually be the harbinger of spiritual singularity. When humanity reaches the point where it can consciously direct its own evolution, we'll transition from the Homo sapiens era to the Homo spiritus era. But there's something even deeper than this. Humanity is beginning to discover those abilities that spiritual traditions have taught for millennia. Telepathy, precognition, psychokinesis. These abilities were previously considered special gifts, but more and more signs show these are natural potentials of human consciousness. Quantum physics provides explanation for these phenomena. If consciousness is a quantum-level process, it might theoretically be capable of creating non-local effects. Quantum entanglement shows that information can spread instantly across any distance. Why couldn't this be true for consciousness too? The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory studied these phenomena for 30 years. The results show that people are indeed capable of exerting weak but statistically significant effects on physical systems through pure intention. The age of spiritual sciences. It seems we're entering the age of spiritual sciences, where science and spirituality aren't opponents but allies. Quantum physics, neurology, epigenetics, and other scientific fields are all making discoveries that bring them closer to ancient wisdom traditions. This doesn't mean abandoning science, but expanding it. The materialist paradigm, according to which only matter exists, is beginning to give way to a more integral worldview that makes room for both objective reality and subjective experience. What Ken Wilber calls integral theory aims exactly at this synthesis. By combining science's objective methods with spirituality's subjective experiences, we can arrive at a more comprehensive worldview. This change has not only philosophical but practical significance. As we better understand the connection between consciousness and matter, we'll become capable of consciously directing our evolution. We won't just be passive participants in change, but active co-creators. Maharishi effect research shows that when 1% of a community regularly meditates, it has a measurably positive effect on the entire community. If this effect truly exists, it's conceivable that a critical mass of conscious people could change entire civilization toward unity. Every sign indicates that humanity stands at the threshold of a new evolutionary stage. This means not only biological change, but a leap in consciousness too. More and more people recognize that all living beings are connected in a greater unity. This unity isn't an abstract philosophical concept, but an actually measurable phenomenon. Morphic fields, quantum entanglement, the collective unconscious all show this fundamental interconnectedness. As more people recognize this and make it personal experience, our entire civilization will change. Lynn McTaggart shows in The Field that modern physics discoveries paint a coherent picture. The zero-point energy field permeating the entire universe is the medium in which all information and energy flows. This field connects everything with everything. If this is true, then every thought we think, every emotion we feel creates waves in this field. These waves affect others, often without conscious perception. This would explain family constellations functioning, distant healing phenomena, and why we sometimes feel others' thoughts or emotions. The evolution versus creation debate will become obsolete because both are different aspects of the same divine process. Science and spirituality unite, and a new type of humanity is born that consciously participates in its own evolution. The birth of planetary consciousness. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's prophesied noosphere, the thinking layer around Earth, is beginning to become reality. The internet and global communication networks aren't just technological achievements, but the first steps in forming a planetary nervous system. But this goes even deeper. More and more people experience what we can call cosmic consciousness, the direct experience of unity with all life. This isn't intellectual recognition, but direct, unquestionable experience. James Lovelock's Gaia theory states that Earth itself is a living, conscious system. All living beings together form a superorganism capable of regulating itself and maintaining conditions necessary for life. If this is true, then humanity might be the means of Gaia consciousness development. As we become more connected technologically and consciously, we might become the planet's conscious brain. This represents enormous responsibility, but also tremendous opportunity. The vision of cosmic humanity. The ultimate vision might be that humanity outgrows Earth and becomes a cosmic civilization. But this doesn't mean only physical expansion. This is consciousness expansion too. As we better understand consciousness's nature, we become capable of transcending physical limitations. Russian scientist Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, the father of spaceflight, wrote, "Earth is humanity's cradle, but one cannot live in the cradle forever. But perhaps we need to leave the cradle not only physically, but consciously too." According to reincarnation teachings, consciousness isn't bound to a single planet or dimension. As we develop spiritually, we become capable of experiencing higher planes. Perhaps humanity's evolution's next step is exactly this: developing multidimensional consciousness. This isn't science fiction, but the natural continuation of spiritual evolution. Every great mystic reported transcending physical reality's limitations and experiencing higher dimensions. Perhaps this awaits all humanity too. So here we are, at the end of the great evolution versus creation debate, but actually standing before a completely new beginning. What we've uncovered today is much more than just intellectual exercise. This is a paradigm shift that could radically change our lives and all humanity's future. But there's one final secret I must share with you. All of this we've discussed, morphic fields, quantum consciousness, conscious evolution, is already working within you. Every moment, as you listen to these words, your consciousness is shaping reality, not metaphorically, but literally. The only question is, do you recognize this power, and do you use it consciously? Because if you do, then you're not just a passive recipient of this story, but an active participant in an evolutionary process that transcends all previous human experience. And right now, in this moment, the greatest adventure you could ever experience is beginning. Subscribe and follow future videos, because next week we'll discover exactly how you can use this knowledge in everyday life. And prepare yourself, because what we'll learn then will be even more shocking. The story doesn't end here. It's actually just beginning.